Hi,
Thank you.
Cinda.
Morning, Linda.
Morning, Cinda.
Okay, let's set the circle and then we can share. So first, I just want to banish all dark energies and entities out of our consciousness, out of our space. Call in all our teams to surround us, protect us, support us, encourage us, motivate us, and feed us wisdom, patience, tolerance, and kindness. And make a decision to banish all our limiting beliefs that hold us back from the sunlight of the Spirit, from our wisdom, and from God's grace. Breathe out whatever was before, whatever you brought in and didn't mean to bring in, but it's there. Breathe it out so that the mind and the heart are open for a new experience. And our circle is set.
It is set.
So, welcome this morning. And I have a question for you. And the question is, and we're kind of talking about that, our emotions and how powerful our emotions are. And our emotions are built and created around the need to survive, because we used to be completely focused on surviving. It could be it could be anything. But anyway, back to ancient times before we lost our wisdom. We were pretty basic, depended on the weather. And we depended on our survival skills. So today, we have an intuition. We have support teams in the unseen. And we don't need as many survival skills blown out of proportion. So the question is, how aware are you of your survival skills? Because for me, I feel when I'm in control of my emotions, which is 100 forms of fear, anger, jealousy, resentment, any of those high-powered emotions, they take me out of my God center and they put me in survival. And I'm not happy. So the goal is to be in control of my energy, because emotions are energy. And if I can control my emotions, I am controlling my energy, and I am in total control of my life. And it's a process. And that's how I am seeing it today. And that's my question to you is, how aware are you of the role your emotions play out in your life? Are they supporting you, or are they interfering? Do they throw you into survival, or do they help you get to the state of thriving? And to me, when I'm in the state of thriving, I'm in a state of grace. And that's completely spiritual. And I have transcended my survival skills. I don't need them in a state of grace. I am not surviving anything. I am an open channel for all that is good that I call love. And I am an open heart, an open mind and an open heart. And it is to me, a complete state of grace. And I don't have to fix anything within myself. So that's my thought for the day, for our hour. And where are you with that? And who would like to go first?
I'll go first because, emotions are, and how we define them and how we work with them is, I think it was last week that I kind of went through that process with some people. So for me, people say emotions aren't real. And what I say is emotions aren't indication of reality. So they would be indications of all the old patterns, which you term survival. And I really agree with that. And but for me, the emotions uh, are something to be acknowledged as a message giver, and especially those emotions that take us offline. The message giver that says there's still something in me, an old pattern, etc. Where it comes from. That I then have the opportunity to use my tools to get the message of the emotion. Stay with it as long as you want to. Sometimes you're going to stay. You can wallow in it or whatever. But when you understand that, okay, now what's it telling me? Then that leads me to an old experience that I can say that's not the reality today. Therefore, I could use healing tools and not just rise above the emotion and not just push it down and ignore it, but truly get the kernel from which it is springing, which might have been now a means of survival in the past, no longer needed, but it also could be reminders of trauma, genetic, my own. So that I look at emotions that way. Emotions aren't indicators of what's reality, but they are indicators of something stored in your bodies in one area that is calling to be seen. That I can use tools then to transform, heal, release the cause, and then I can look around and make choices. And like you say, who we are, our total being is one of wholeness and all good. That's who we are. Thanks for the question, Sue.
Such a fascinating topic. So coming off of what you said about survival, Sue, and the emotions, and then Sharon's validation and comments. I mean, I just had a real life experience, and this sort of helps explain it. And that was that I picked up a novel that was touting itself as being a wonderful beach read, an opportunity to just, hunker down and read a fun story. The author was kind of advertised as being the best of beach reads. And I love a book where I don't have to feel or think. And it's, and I went, yay, take me off into fantasy land or whatever. Well, holy shit. It was a book about a young woman that was 15 years old that was in Cape Cod there as a babysitter. Her parents didn't want her to go, but the parents of the kids were like, we'll take good care of her. Well, she ended up getting gang raped on the beach. And I'm like, oh my God, do I really want to read this? Do I really want to read this? Oh my God. And it would go from, the event to current day to back in the past. It would sort of hop all over the place. And my own experience, there was so much healing that I had gone through, especially with writing my own story, writing my book, having other people know the truth about what happened to me. And I was so triggered by the story that I started to have almost like little mini panic attacks. I mean, I don't know how else to read it. I mean, how else to describe what was happening to me. But I also found it fascinating because A, I knew I was safe. B, I knew it wasn't me it happened to, that this was a fictitious story. But how interesting, and to have this perspective about how I was being so triggered by this. And I forced myself and challenged myself to read the book till the end. And primarily because I knew what would happen to me with my emotions if I didn't complete the story. I would create a whole made up scenario in my head that wouldn't be true to the story. And I had to finish it. I had to understand the outcome and force myself to read the story. And anyway, what I found in the process of doing that, I had to remove myself enough from those emotions, from my emotions, trying not to identify too closely with the lead character. That in doing so, not denying or pretending my emotions weren't there, but doing a separation somehow that then I could observe it from a different perspective. And I was able to see how this woman, although it was a fictitious story, had captured what it is like to be the victim of a violent crime against your body, against your psyche, against your spirit, against yourself, and all the different phases this woman went through. And it was just so well written. And it ended beautifully. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then the question becomes, why was I guided to read that? I mean, why did I pick up that book? Why, And then I mean, I don't know if this is the outcome, but I all of a sudden realized that in my own story, there was really no closure. We don't know what happened to my perpetrator. We don't know what happened to him. And I only know what happened to me. And in this story, the victim actually confronts, years later, she tracks her perpetrators down and confronts them. Just gently, like, I need you to be aware of your actions and what they did to me. And anyway, it was kind of talked about the Kavanaugh hearings, that where the boys were young and it shouldn't have mattered what I did back then. I'm a better man now, but what was it about you that allowed that? And I kept reading all the outsider energy. I could see the outsider energy in this story. And I was like, oh my God, how fascinating to have the knowledge that I have now, both in my own experience and my healing and sharing with your protocol that you've taught, and to be able to see things from this removed perspective where I'm not letting my emotions control me, that I am not in survival mode, which is where I obviously went immediately when I was triggered. But I think the gift that came to me is I am realizing that in this last quarter of my life, what is it that I want to do? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be with? What do I want to do it with? Who do I want to do it with? But what is it? What is it? And I realized that what I really want more than anything is to keep writing, to write stories, maybe fictitious stories. Novels would be amazing. And then it occurred to me, this woman wrote a novel about the survival of this woman, and it was a novel. And how could I take my story that I've already written, turn it into a novel, and actually create a totally different outcome where the perpetrator is caught, or where I do confront him, or, just create a whole different scenario? Because there are so many, in my story, there are so many unanswered questions that all the readers have, that they all, oh my God, what happened? And why this, why that? And I'm like, I don't know. Those are good questions. What if I could rewrite the story and actually answer those questions? And yeah. So based upon what you're bringing into the story, Sue, or into the conversation, I really wanted to control those emotions because they scared me, because I wasn't prepared to be triggered like I was, and then have these little panic moments. And so I thought, to control him means to me like you just shove him down, but I knew I couldn't do that because physically it made me ill once upon a time. So I had to remove myself from them and observe them and be in awe of it and work with it like it was almost an experiment. And yeah, and bring in all of my knowledge that I have now and make it through this book without it doing harm, which of course it didn't. If anything, it enlightened me even more. So yeah, it's fascinating to me that your topic of conversation is something I just lived through. So thank you. Thank you. I'm complete.
Huh. This is a challenging one for me, because of what's going on in my life right now. And Cinda, I was sharing earlier that my nephew was killed a few days ago in an off-train vehicle accident. And the picture I can't get out of my mind, although I don't know the whole story, is that they were up riding on the trails, and somehow, whatever the accident was, he went into the canal, one of the canals there in Arizona, and they found him like a mile down the canal. I don't know if he was trapped in the vehicle under there, what, I don't know what happened. I'm not sure anyone will know what happened. But so the emotions obviously have been really high, and starting with shock and disbelief. But so for me, it's letting the emotions be what they are, instead of stuffing them down and whatever, letting them be what they are. And not thinking about a place of security or whatever else, or safety. Is just living in the emotions, and not with myself so much as, well, myself, but my family, all my family, and especially my sister who lost her son. And as we all know, it's not supposed to be that way. We're not supposed to lose our kids. In our mind anyway, is that the perfect, scenario is you die before your kids do. And the second piece in that is that my sister, his mother, she had a stroke a few years ago, and so she can't speak. She can speak 2 or 3 words, but that's it. But she can't get thoughts out and whatever. So she can't express her emotions. And I visited her yesterday, and I sat with her just in her grief and tried to help her be able to express some emotions. It just felt like, to talk with her, the only way you can have a conversation with her is do you converse and see if she maybe goes like this, or you get some response to something you might say. And she was, she did have some tears, and but it was also the sweetness being with her. I don't know how to explain that. It was just kind of being able to sit with her in emotions, and maybe just being able to sit in silence, instead of having to have her express her emotions. I could express mine. I could tell her how I was feeling, and say, I'm wondering if you're feeling, just what would I call it? This devastation, I guess is a word. I sit here and feel like devastated, and wondering if that's a word, a feeling that you have. And she was like, like this, and in tears, and I was hoping that in some of my words and sharing that would help her in her own way to be able to get some of that out in the way that she could. But I went away from there just with such grief, just realizing I had taken on her energy, the unspoken energy, just being in that place. And so it wasn't until the afternoon when I got home and I could go out and go for my walk and go up to the creek and talk to the creek and say, Creek, I'm going to give this to you because I know you can transform it and not harm you. And that was really good. That really helped. So I'm just I'm sitting with a lot of emotions, so it's difficult for me to answer your question in the moment. So when I'm in the midst of it, what I do know is that I'm in such a better place than I was a few years ago. When Sue asked first, when I just first came on this morning, she asked, she said, so how you doing? And she knew about the situation already. Said, how you doing? And I started to say, oh, I'm okay. And I stopped halfway through my sentence because I thought, that's such an automatic thing and I'm not okay. So I think that's one of the things with when we talk about emotions is being able to name them. And I think finding security in that, I find a sense of safety in being able to name my emotions and sit with them and let them talk to me and guide me. I think that's about as much as I have to say.
Thank you. You helped clarify because nothing is black and white. But as a human being, I judge things black and white. I live in the gray, but I judge things in my mind black and white. So it's good or it's bad. Emotions, now that you've all shared, now I can put it into different words. My emotions are my road signs. Slow down, caution, severe winds ahead. Caution, slippery highway, caution, sharp curves ahead. So this morning I woke up feeling heavy. And I thought, what? And then my mind took me somewhere and a flashback came of when my daughter was born and my dad and his uncle came to me and threatened to take her away. And then I started into a panic attack. And I was sitting with all of this, realizing, wait, this is going back 50 years. This isn't now. I'm feeling it now. But the road sign is, this is unhealed. So it's not, what I used to do is get lost in my emotions and then try to survive life from within that emotion. Today, I'm looking at my emotions as a road sign that there's just like you said, Sharon, there's something inside of me that's unresolved. And I may not even know it's there. Well, I don't ever know it's there. Hardly ever do I know it's there because I've done so much work. So when I recognize this is the beginning of a panic attack, or this is kind of a small panic attack that could go out of control, it was like, this is a panic attack. This is based on that experience. That experience devastated me, and that part of me is still in the past, but has become aware of me in the present, which is really strange. So now what I'm looking at is, how we say I take us across the bridge once in a while. So over here is duality, physical world. This is an awful lot of survival. And then there's a bridge that takes us from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. And to me, the bridge is the fourth dimension. And I go back and forth. I go into duality and survival. And I go over here, and over here is the grace of God. And I don't have a problem. I just don't have a problem. I'm in a whole different consciousness. It's a whole, it's complete, it's holy, it's being at one with all of life, and there's no duality. So that's fifth, sixth, seventh, whatever. It's fifth and forward. My emotions are my road signs. There's something unresolved within me, but I don't have to get stuck in it. And this does not apply to grieving. This does, to me, this does not apply to grieving. This does not apply to sadness. I don't call either one of those an emotion. I call them sadness and grieving. And it's a process, and we have to go through it. If we don't go through it, we are stuck in survival. We are stuck in emotions, and we are stuck. But if you're going through it, which talking about it takes me through it, there's no judgment on that. Absolutely none. How are you? I'm in a state of grieving. All that needs to be said, we know you're sad and you're not your best self. You're doing your best, but you're not at your best self at that time. That's not what I would call an emotion that has to be changed. So back to, she who controls her emotion controls her energy and therefore her life. If I'm in a state of shock, if I'm in a state of pain, if I'm in a state of sadness, if I'm in a state of grieving, just stating it out loud and sharing it is part of the process. I'm not stuck. If I'm stuck in the fear over wearing a mask because the news says there's a pandemic and I could die, and I get stuck there and I am reacting to every person, place, and thing around me from a state of fear and panic and don't get near me, don't breathe on me, don't sneeze, don't cough, don't come to my house. If I'm in a state of panic, my emotions are controlling me. And my mind is shut and my heart is shut and I'm not listening to anything. I'm just reacting. I do not want to react. I want to observe, evaluate, and make a very healthy decision. So for our meditation, I would like to go across the bridge from knowing your understanding of duality, your understanding of the human condition, which I call 500 and below, crossing the bridge, which is going through the veil, coming into a new awareness of what the other side of the veil is and offers for you. And we're each going to have our own experience. And that's the fascinating part. We each have our own experience. So if you are ready, any questions? Okay. You can keep your camera on, or you can take your camera off. You can go offline. And we'll do this at least 10 minutes. So be comfortable, be warm, go to your sacred space. Feel yourself connected above to all that is, all that is good, all that is universal love and light, connecting to the state of grace. Setting your intention to open your mind, to open your spiritual heart to a new experience, feeling your feet firmly supported on Earth Mother, feeling all her nurturing love and her powerful life force, knowing she provides life for every single life form on this planet. And all the elements worked together when we ask for balance in our life. And now let's have the above connection, the below connection meet in our hearts. Expand it to fill our whole body and at least 3 feet out. And that is our unconditional, universal source energy. It fills us, it fills every single cell, atom, molecule, tissue, every cell, every organ, every system. Our whole body radiates source energy. And from this state of being in our God center, maybe a state of grace, maybe a state of we are all one, see yourself stepping onto the bridge. And behind us is duality, good and bad, good and evil, pleasure and pain, right and wrong. And we're just going to walk away from it. We're not ignoring it. We're just setting it aside and walking away, knowing it's there. We can return to it at any time. And moving to the center of the bridge, where you go into a mist, and the mist is our veil, and we don't know what's on the other side. We know what's behind us. We don't know what's in front of us, but we make a decision to move through the mist to the other side of the bridge. And when we're ready, we walk off the bridge into the sunlight of the Spirit, and we receive feelings, information, awareness, may hear sounds, may see colors, whatever Spirit brings to each of us that is for our highest and our best at this time. And from here, I will leave you in silence and call you back in about 10 minutes. And when you are ready, you may very gently come back to our circle and turn your cameras on. Welcome back. I feel really much better about my emotions being my signposts. I don't have to do anything about them. I just need to read them and allow them to be my signposts, not something I need to react to. So that means I can move out of survival and into thrive. Healing. What I got was that what I'm calling thriving is a process of healing, going from a brain wired to survive everything, which started in childhood. Everything, absolutely everything, was a basis and a need to survive, to a point of recognizing that's all trauma, not my fault, didn't cause it, can't change it, can't control it, not my fault. And allow healing. And the healing brings me to thrive. And I love the idea of being in a state of thriving. And that to me is the spiritual state of being in wisdom, patience, tolerance, kindness, unconditional love and acceptance. It's in solution. It's in a state of grace. I love it. That's my share. Who would like to go next?
So your entrance meditation was just so beautiful, and I love the mist and going through the mist on the bridge, and that was so powerful. And then my phone dinged and I looked, and we have a client. I mean, I just glanced to see if it was something I needed because I'm on call on duty all the time for our property at the Coves, and it was a Cove property from our manager. And I thought, well, I better read this. And it ended up being a message that she forwarded from a regular of ours who we care for very deeply, who was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and it's far more serious than what we thought. And so she was forwarding me this guest's text. And so I just sort of closed my eyes and I thought, wow, how interesting is the timing of this, considering the meditation that we're all going through. And so I decided to respond when we went on our own journey. But I went in and I was like, how do I support? How do I help? Where do I go? How do I deal with her emotions? And I just, so I was able to send her a couple audio messages of being of a sovereign being of light and love, and only that which is in alignment with this light and love can remain, but that which is not is required to leave. And I walked her through the removal of that which isn't in alignment with who she really is and what her purpose and destiny is. And I don't know, there was something really extraordinary and powerful about reaching out to her while we were all in a form of meditation. And then I brought the essence of who she was in front of me, and I just scanned her body and helped her, remove and heal that which was not serving her right now. I just think the timing was remarkable for me with all this. So I thank you, Sue, again, for guiding us through such meaningful, powerful meditation. Thank you.
What came to me somewhere in the meditation was back years ago when I was going to the Swedish pain clinic and working with this wonderful doctor. And at one point we were working with a situation that had, where a physical therapist had done some things that had caused me severe pain that had gone on, still goes on actually, but had gone on for years. But he had me write, he had me rewrite my story, where I can't, where I rewrote it, the story where I was not the victim, but I was the hero of my story. And it was so, I wrote this and then I read it. I remember reading it to Tom and he just went, wow, and read it again myself and went, it was so beautiful because and it really helped me to let go and forgive when I saw myself as the hero in the story, not a victim, not a victim. And that came to me. And so why that came to me now, I'm not sure about. I think it's just of us talking about emotions and things, traumas, a couple of you at least talking about traumas in your life and how you've moved through them. And it's just a good thing for me to remember. And then the funny thing was at the very end, I'm eating these new protein bars called MOSH. Have you heard of those? MOSCH. It's what's the woman? Marie Shriver. I don't know if any of you ever get her Sunday letters or whatever. She always writes these beautiful letters. And she and her son have developed this high protein bar that is, and it's really they're really focused on brain health and doing this and the things they put in. There's no sugar and all this stuff. And I really like them. And I use them usually for breakfast because I'm not much of a breakfast person. And, but I don't know, it's just at the very end before he called us back, all of a sudden that flashed before my mind, this big sign of mosh bars and brain foods. So I don't know if it was just a sign and intuition thing of supporting my brain through the emotions. I don't know. I have no idea what the connection was, but anyway, that's me.
I was reminded that during the night, I was shown the energy field and connections between souls in female bodies, and how over the eons of time, those fields had become really contaminated. And what we've been doing is acting out a lot of those survival stories by pulling each other down, causing conflict amongst each other. I mean, all of that was introduced, the not enough, I was all introduced to keep the female from being in voice of authority. And how, even though there's a lot of clearing that has happened, that what's coming up for us to come together as a united conscious group, a field, isn't possible because there's still residue in that field. And so they had in the night said, we want you to work on that field. And I bargained to sleep longer and work today. So they reminded me to get with that program. So that's what I'm in the process of fulfilling on that agreement that I made with them, that I would do that today. And so that's what I'm working on. Thanks, Sue. Thanks, you guys.
Sue, can I go on?
Oh, yes.
Sharon, I just want to speak from my heart about you and the work that you do and how you tirelessly or even tiredly continue to show up and do this necessary work for mankind, for womankind, for humankind, for the earth. Your trust in spirit, your trust in your team, your trust in us, the way that you teach, the way that you educate, the passion in which it's taught. I mean, I just think I want to speak for humanity and just thank you from the bottom of my soul and heart for the work that you do and how you're showing up in the world, my love. I am just so blessed to know you. Ah, so thank you.
Thank you, Cinda, for putting that into words for all of us.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
there's levels of clearing that I count on Sharon seeing and clearing, knowing I don't see all of that. I don't see it. I hold solution, and there's a lot of things Sharon sees. I don't see it. But I'm just grateful that you do, Sharon, and that you do the work. It clears the way so the rest of us can support you, but do our part.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really quite an honor to be with women at your level and caliber of commitment. So I just, I'm so glad we're not alone, and that progress is definitely being made for
Yeah.
for all life forms, for all life forms.
Yes.
Thank you, Cinda.
I echo all of that, and I want to add that I'm so pleased that you're being guided, Sharon, to work on women, women supporting each other in the past. I mean, I think all of us have stories in our life of where it's women attacking women instead of supporting each other, women competing against women. I have my own story of a woman trying to destroy my whole career and everything. We all have, instead of, at the same time that I was trying to help her and succeed. And so that's so important because we need each other. And I want to thank all of you for being here in this moment and this time to help give me solid ground for where I am right now and dealing with my emotions and those around me, and so I can be stronger. So thank you.
Well,
And I want to say one more thing. Sometimes there's actions that words aren't needed. I brought my sister a little willow, willow tree angels. Everybody has these willow. I brought her the one that's angel of prayer and gave it to her. And I could tell she just loved it. But what really, without her words, she was holding an angel and she took it up and she held it on her cheek like this. And I thought that gesture said more than 1,000 words, or thank you, or what, or how much it meant to her. And so I don't know, that just came to me all of a sudden. So I think it's important to look for not only words, but how we see these things expressed by others in other ways.
yes. Anyone else? Anything they want to share? Well, let's send loving healing light to Lynn for her grieving process, and the woman who has breast cancer and her family, and your nephew's family, Lynn, the whole family, and anyone else who is in need of healing. Let's just send the energy, surround them, fill them, let it flow through them. for their healing. All the people on our list that we have every week. All the people who are not on our list but need it. Let's just be a beacon of healing light and love.
Thank you.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day.
Yes. Blessings on you, Sharon, as you do your work today, your important
Thank you.
work.
Thank you. All of us. Thank you.